Okay, ladies, I have a very special guest coming in hot for us today. This is Leona Burton, and she is a freaking force to be reckoned with when it comes to ambitious moms. Leona, can you please introduce yourself and then we're going to dive right in?
Hey, oh my gosh. I mean, thank you so much for having me. This is very exciting. It's been a while since I did an interview because this mama has been busy. So for those of you who don't know me, I have six children. You might hear them in the background tinkering around. It is bedtime here. I'm actually in Bulgaria at the moment. Most of the time I have no idea which country I'm in, but I am in Bulgaria, so it is bedtime. So it's a little bit chaotic for all of those mums. You get it, right? You get it. I'm also the CEO and founder of an organization called MIB International Network, and we support lots of mums and women all over the world by providing child-friendly networking events. And it's been a wild ride, let me tell you.
Okay,
It's been a ride.
I just want to bring everybody into the conversation we were actually already just having, because then I'm like, oh my gosh, we have to hit play because or record, because what I want to talk about with you is the other side. I mean, you could talk about business and strategy and all the things because that's literally what you do, but we were just talking about how crazy it is to have kids that are going through challenges. And so my son specifically has brain cancer. And Leona was just saying how she was just having lunch. When was it? A couple weeks ago with,
Yeah, last week. Yeah.
yeah, with a friend who also has brain cancer and also met a little girl who's 12 who's been given this diagnosis. And I think this is a conversation that is not had enough in the online space, where it's like the moms who are walking through hard and what it actually takes to keep putting yourself back up on the track to chase your dream and your goals and your mission and the purpose that's like been somehow bestowed inside your heart or your soul. And walking through hard things, you can still do it. And like everybody asks you all the time, how do you do it? You're always in different countries. You're always running around with six different kids, let's
Right. And ultimately the conversation that we were just having is you just do. And I think it's interesting when you talk about, business strategy and I've worked with some of the greatest trainers and coaches in the world, and I've learned all these things over the last, I don't know, 15, 16 years of my life. But ultimately when it comes to life and business, there are always going to be things that you are not prepared for or ready for, that you kind of feel like sideswept by. You're like, hang on a minute, nobody told me that I was going to have to deal with this, or nobody prepared me for this, or because every single person's business and every single person's life is different. So we are not prepared always for the things that are going to come and land on our plates or on our desks. And I think with all the love in the world, and there's some brilliant strategists out there, but ultimately a lot of this is tuning into ourselves and really leaning into, okay, who are we as humans? What do we desire? What do we need right now to be able to get through this situation that we're in? And we just have to, it's almost like a trust in ourselves that we will figure it out as best as possible as we're going. And of course, doing all the things, surrounding yourself with people that have lived through similar experiences or have experiences that you don't have, or having mentors and coaches and all of those, and trainers. And yes, absolutely, I'm a massive believer in all of those things. But ultimately, you're the only person that is with you 24 hours a day. And I know that you think your children are with you a lot of the time, but occasionally you do have a little bit of a break. So you are the only person with you 24 hours a day, and you are having an internal conversation with yourself the whole time. I mean, if you get a rest when you're asleep, great. But most of the time, I don't know about you, but my brain is still not fully asleep when I'm asleep. And so it really has to come down to you and the strength from within. And you know what, sometimes, and I we've been connected for a long time, and you've seen the journey, and I've seen some of your journey, and we know, like, there's an unwritten, unspoken rule. It's like, I get it, right? And I think that we are moving away from this influencer culture of perfection and success is defined by this or that or whatever. And it's not about you not having those things, but it's also understanding of, what success actually looks like to you. And it's also okay to change what that is. And 5 years ago I wanted this, and this, and I've just separated from my husband after being together for 24 and a half years. I have 6 children. I'm homeschooling. So my definition of success right now is to keep my kids alive, to maintain my business, and I'm in the process of burning some things down and rebuilding. So the definition of success is a little bit different, right? And that's also okay. Like, I don't have to explain myself to anybody, and neither should you. And I think we have to normalize that conversation more, because ultimately a lot of us have been in this space for a long period of time where we have been in information overwhelm, right? And this person said we should be doing this, and we have to do this, and we have to da, da, da. And it's all great advice, but sometimes it's too much, right? It's like, I don't know what to do first. And now with the advancements in AI, which is amazing, by the way, but ultimately we're like, okay, now I'm frozen, because I don't even know what I want. I don't know what I want to do. I don't know what direction I want to go in. And ultimately it's about silencing the noise as best as possible, and really taking a little look inside and figuring out, actually, what do we want as humans? Like, forget the business. I'm like gonna not be here one day. My last day on this earth, I want to be like, do you know what? I lived a life that made sense to me, and not just for everybody else. And I think as women, as mums, with all the hats that we wear and all of the juggling that we juggle, it's like we do so much for everybody else that we forget ourselves, and our identity is so wrapped up in the hats that we wear. And how often do we stop and go, no, really, what is the strategy here when it comes to my life for me in a way in which makes sense for me? And I think that is what I would encourage everybody listening to this or watching this to do over the next few days, is like, just silence the noise a little bit. Put your phone down. Like, stop listening to so many podcasts, as amazing as they are, but actually just check in with yourself about, am I happy with what's happening here? And if I'm not, what am I going to do about it? Like, what can I change? And a lot of the time we feel like things are out of our control. And yes, of course, there are some awful things that happen to great people, right? There is, for whatever reason. But there are lots of things that we can take back control with. And even if that's just in how we react or respond to a situation, and maybe it's pausing before we reply to that shirty email that we just had, or maybe we don't need to answer our phones at the weekend, and maybe we just choose to have more time off, and maybe we choose to put those boundaries in place because ultimately that's what makes sense to us. And so I think it's really important, more so than anything, that we start to take a little bit of a breath and recalibrate and make sure that we're actually in alignment with what it is that we really want, and we're not performing for other people. And she says, the person who's built her whole business on social, right? I get the performative, but I also, more importantly than anything, I have to sit with myself and my beliefs, my vision, and my mission, and make sure that it aligns with me, because ultimately you're not going to please everybody. So let's start with ourselves first, which is completely unique to how most of us have built our businesses.
Mm-hmm. I think there's an underlying feeling when somebody's just on the climb, especially on their way to their first 6 figures, where they'll listen to somebody say something like that and say, well, that's all fine and good, but you're already making the money. I'm still in the frantic, gotta figure this out, gotta get this done, you know what I mean? And so it's really hard to translate, how do I get into alignment? Because alignment sometimes, I think the perception of it is that it feels like, like stepping back, taking your foot off the gas.
And I couldn't agree more. So I think you brought up some really valid points there. First of all, I have been helping for the last couple of years. I actually have something called 6 Figure Success. And it's because I created this kind of cohort because a lot of people, 6 figures is their definition of success.
Yeah.
And I absolutely understand the privilege that I have at this point to be able to take a sidestep and breathe. However, I've trained over 1 million people, and what I know to be true is that I have nearly burned out several times, and I have been around lots of women that have almost burned out, or they have burned out. And so even on your way to six figures, even if you're on your way to first 50K, I don't care where you are in your journey. What I do know is important is that you take those moments. And listen, I'm telling you, the hustle and the grind and the stress and the strain, it just changes. So I'm very fortunate that I sit on several boards. I have equity in some big companies. I have some of my business partners, the people that you see on the television, Stephen Bartlett and I own equity in the same company, right? So I sit around physical virtual tables with these types of people. And I'm telling you, it doesn't matter whether you earn $5, $5 million, $5 billion. Every single business owner feels that, am I going to make the payroll? Am I going to have I got to I mean, it's always something. So I want you to know that, yes, absolutely, I'm very privileged that I have the ability to somewhat take a breath. But ultimately, I have a team of 120 people just in MIB, right? And so, yes, I can, but not really at the same time. I also have 6 children. Now, I have 6 children. 2 of them don't live at home at the moment. They're more expensive than when they lived at home. Now they don't live at home. So I have to pay other people's rent as well as my own. I mean, all of the things. So I absolutely get it. But I want you to understand that you don't start to breathe differently when you do six figures, right? It just becomes a different problem of a different size. And usually it's a bigger tax bill or something, you're like, nobody told me this was not sexy. It's not my idea of fun, okay? The second thing is, let's talk about alignment, because I think it's a word that is bandied around and people don't really understand it. And I'm going to be honest with you guys. Like, sometimes people sit in there, I don't feel aligned with the moon and my chakras and my thing and and the light and the Taurus is not in whatever. And I'm like, girlfriend, like, if you are waiting, like, I'm here to tell you that you need to move, because, and I'm not saying those things work, and I'm not bashing spirituality or anything like that. Absolutely, I've studied with some of the greats, but what I do, I can tell you, I am actually working on a really secret project, and I will come back and talk to you about it when I can. But think of the people that were in the secret, right? Some of those people have been my mentors. Some of those people I'm about to do a project with. And those people that talk about manifestation, talk about the law of attraction, all of those things are like, Leona, you have to take aligned action. And I'm like, I know. So if you're sat there thinking, well, I'll just wait for the universe to deliver me a check and knock on the door, it's not happening, right? It doesn't work like that. So yes, absolutely, alignment is really important. But ultimately, I do it whether I feel like it or I don't. And I know that sounds like, oh, it's very masculine energy. Well, sometimes that's what it takes, because ultimately, the reality of the situation is business is incredibly hard. And yes, there are things that can make it easier, and yes, there are strategies, and yes, automation, and yes, outsourcing to a team, and yes, all of those things, and clearing, and your feng shui, and your crystals, and your sage, and all of the things, right? It all adds up. But ultimately, we're pulling in the hours. So if you are not pulling in the hours and you're expecting a full-time wage on part-time hours, just know that does happen. However, in the beginning, and I'm talking sometimes for years, you have to put in the work, because it has a compound effect. And now business goes like this. You see my journey. Came out the gate, bam. Then a massive dip when me and my business partner separated. Then I had to rebuild. Then COVID, right? And then people rode the COVID wave, made loads of money. And then it was like, yeah, where's our money gone? Because people aren't spending the same way as they were spending. And the people that have got through are the people that go, right, what's the next strategy? What am I doing? The people that didn't survive that roller coaster of, oh my God, we're making a fortune here. This is super easy. And now everybody's become a coach, or everybody's become a creator. Now we're like swimming in the pond of AI, and we all sound the same, which is fine, by the way. But ultimately, we have to choose: are we going to sit in this sticky pond over here? Are we going to be a bit more disruptive? That takes work. So just know that, yes, absolutely, the privilege and all of those things, but it is compounded over a period of time. And let me tell you, I am the hardest working person on my team, and I have been for 9 years. And my team would tell you that. And the reason why I tell you that is because ultimately that's what it takes to build, or that's what it's taking me to build what I want to achieve. And that's why I talk about alignment. It isn't an excuse to sit around and wait for, somebody to turn up at your doorstep, because, I mean, unless you know something that I don't know, it's just not working out. So I want you to understand that the reality is my mood does not define my work ethic, right? It just doesn't. I work hard, whether I feel like it. I'm hormonal, I've got PMS, whatever. I still get the thing done, and I might be internally like, I hate this, I never want to do it. The internal chatter is still the internal chatter. Like I am very professionally and personally developed, but it doesn't mean that I'm not human. We all have those moments of like, why am I doing this? I would earn more money in Walmart. Like, what is happening? I hate people. I don't like customers. I do. Let's not lie to ourselves here. But it passes. It passes because you work out how to move through and out the other side. And you know what? You have a great period of time, and then something else happens. You're like, oh my God, why am I doing this again? Like, why didn't anybody tell me it was going to be this hard? It's kind of like parenting. Like, people warn you it's going to be tough. You become a parent, you're like, nobody in their right mind, if they knew how complicated this thing was, would choose. I mean, of course they would. But in those moments, you're like, we must be all levels of insane.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Period.
Kids are, parenting is exactly like that. And it's kind of like business. You just never see shit coming. I mean, it makes it so interesting to watch. We were talking about this earlier too, to watch people complain about things that aren't really complainable once you've actually had something really hard happen. And
you do. And I think that sometimes is absolutely works in your favor, but sometimes I have to remember to humble myself, because ultimately I'm like, Leona, not everybody's experienced your level of complexity that you've experienced in business or life. And I'm like, why are you moaning? Like, stop whinging about these things. And I have to remember that it's perception. So maybe that's a big thing to that person, but when you've experienced so many things, and I've been traveling the world for 8 years, and I've seen severe poverty, and people that are literally eating out of garbage dumps, and they're the happiest humans you've ever met, and you're like, there is a disconnect here. What is happening? And so it's reminding yourself that yes, there are real problems, yes, these are real people, and yes, we have to consistently remind ourselves that your problems are my problems and my problems aren't your problems, and we're at two different places. But ultimately, what do I have control of when it comes to my stuff? And who do I want to keep in my circle? Because in reality, yes, we'll all have a whinge and a moan, blah, blah, but I don't want to surround myself with people that moan about stuff. Like, first of all, I'm too busy. Second of all, I mind my mind. That's something that's really important for our listeners and our watchers. Like, I am really intentional about who and where I put myself physically. Like, who am I surrounding myself with? Because I mean, yes, you become they become the average of the 5 people you surround yourself with. My 5 people are my kids. I'm like, oh my God, like I'm going to become a child. But if I look at my peers or my friends, I know that they are good people. They lead with a good heart. They have good intention. That a lot of them are entrepreneurs, but not all of them. But, they are the type of person that I choose to spend my time with, because ultimately that's really important, so that I stay here. I stay really centered, very grounded. And again, the consumption of like the news and this drama and the TMZs and the da-da-da. Like, I used to love a gossip magazine. Now I'm like, why are we talking about somebody's cellulite again? Like, please, somebody remind me, like, why is this front page news? And so as I've got older and more experience and busier running not only me, but I have equity in 6 other companies, I'm like, I don't need to fill my brain with that stuff. I don't want to. And it doesn't mean, listen, for everybody watching, you can still enjoy Netflix. Like, I am not the type of person to be like, don't spend money on Starbucks and definitely don't watch Netflix. Like, Listen, we got to have a treat now and again. It's not about sacrificing all of your happinesses for your business. I love a good Netflix program, and I definitely love a Starbucks. However, it's understanding that I need to feed my mind with things that make me feel good, and the occasional binge of a Netflix show is not going to do me any harm. But it's becoming more consciously aware of what makes me feel good and what doesn't make me feel good. Right? It's just, I used to be obsessed with serial killers. Now I'm just like, do you know what? I just don't want to hold that energy anymore.
Yeah.
But I mean, but each their own, right? Each their own. But it's just, it's becoming more mindful about those things and more aware. And I think we go through life, the majority of people go through life completely unaware of most things. Like, we bumble through life, we get into business. Some of us get into business but really strategically, and some of us fall into business. We fall into relationships. We don't often check in with ourselves to see if we're happy or feeling in alignment or all of those things. And we get to the end of the life and it's okay. Like, it's not a bad life, but it's not amazing. Like, I want people to be like, oh my God, like, I lived an amazing life. And I don't care what that looks like, to be honest. If that makes sense to you and you're a good person and you don't hurt other people, you go pop off and you do what makes you happy. Because ultimately, that is the only thing that matters, other than being a good human whilst you're doing that, right? But most of us don't do that because we've never been taught how, because it's not taught in the education system, or it wasn't when my children was, I mean, home educate now, but it wasn't when my children were in school, and I'm sure it's got better, but ultimately that isn't a standard conversation that we're having with ourselves and with our small humans or big humans. And so it's important for me and the people that I surround myself with and my clients and the people that I train and mentor, that it's like, just take a little brain check, just have a little think about what's happening here. Does it feel good? How does it make you feel? How do these people make you feel? Do they make you feel aligned and alive and, you know, excited about life? Or they, every time you see them, you feel drained and you feel frustrated with life? Okay, let's focus on those things. So for those of you who are listening, I just want you to be more conscious about your interactions and your engagements and the clients you're taking on. Even your clients, like, I will turn clients down. I like literally will turn clients down because ultimately it's not worth the money, right? And even if you're like, but I really need the money, let me tell you, let me repeat what I just said. It's not worth the money. There is better money out there to be had, because ultimately those people will drain your soul. And when you're drained from your soul, there is nothing left to give for yourself, for your family, and for your other clients or your prospective clients. And sales is energetics, right? It's energy. It's a transfer of energy. If you're in sales and you're in business like you are, ultimately you got to go out and sell. If you're not feeling good because you've got a pain in the ass client, that is going to affect your sales. So if you have the intuition, if you have a niggle that this person's going to be a pain, don't take them on. I'm sorry, I'm fully booked, or I'm busy, or whatever it is that you want to say, but no, thank you very much. And we just move on, and we're polite and we're respectful, but absolutely not. And I think I've just become more consciously aware of that. I was a yes person, and I still am, and I'm very gracious, and I'm, you know, giving and all of the things, and I do a lot for nonprofits and yada, yada, yada. But I'm like, it's a hard no. Unless it's a hard yes, right? If it's a, yeah, I'm not sure, then it's a goodbye.
Okay, so here's what I just heard. Find out what actually lights you up so that you can be in alignment with your business. Surround yourself with people who make you feel good, not just in your social circle, not just with your kids, but also with your clients. And then make sure that you're holding the boundary, even if you are a yes person, because ultimately, at the end of the day, the only way to build a company, whether it's 6, 7, 8 figures, because I know you're in just ridiculously giant worlds now. It all comes down to, how do I actually do something that makes me happy?
Yeah, 1000%.
Which doesn't sound like a strategy, but ultimately it is the strategy, because
it's the only strategy.
Yeah.
It is honestly, your strategies will change, your social strategy, your email strategy, your funnel strategy. Like, you will be forever tweaking and changing because the algorithm changes, open rates change. You know, what worked 3 years ago is not working now. What worked 18 months ago is not working now. But the strategy when it comes to your life and your business from a centered, aligned, like, does this make sense to me, will not change, because ultimately, as long as you have that inner compass, you're good to go. And we all have it, we just bury it under other people's expectations and the noise.
Yeah, I call it finding your fire. It's like figuring out what you want instead of what you think you should want.
Mm.
It's just like the whole world shifts when you actually start to lean inward for your answers instead of all the external answers everywhere that everyone's selling, right?
100%.
Okay, Leona, I got to wrap this up, but this was amazing because I think we could go on for another hour or 2 or 3. But where can everyone find you these days? Like,
Oh, Leona Burton, anywhere, everywhere. LinkedIn,
everywhere.
Instagram, Facebook, you name it, I'm there. You'll find me. If you can't find me, there's a problem.
Yeah, there's a real problem. I'll drop the links, especially to your Facebook, right under this, and to Meb, because Mothers Internet. What does it actually stand for?
Mums in Business International. So basically, it's just women and mums coming together and networking in a safe space where children are welcome. It's very child friendly, because ultimately we know that you can't just put them in the cupboard when you want to do business. I mean, as much as it's tempting, I don't recommend it.
Right.
So they are welcome, and most people don't bring their children because they're like, I want to rest. But if they want to, or they have no other option, then they are more than welcome. So yes.
Amazing. Okay, well, Leona is literally somebody to be following, especially if you want to just see someone who shares their heart and the real things that they're walking through. Go follow her on Facebook, join her communities, get to know her. This is literally somebody to watch as a mentor, even if you're not hiring her. She is somebody that you can use as like a role model, as somebody that you can surround yourself with, because she literally just, like when you said, oh, well, it's such a, almost like a performance thing because you build online, but nobody ever feels like you're performing. Just, I know you know that, but I just want to tell you, like,
Thank you. Well, I don't actually. I mean, I'm very comedic with my audience, but if you meet me in person, I'm the same person online as I am offline. I mean, I just am. And when other people do it and they're not the same, I'm like, it's confusing to me.
yeah.
So, and so that's the last thing that I want to
Yeah.
pass on, is be yourself. Like, it is exhausting trying to be somebody else. You can build a business from a place of congruence with who you are and what you stand for and what you believe. And yes, I can still be a good person, but I can still have my own beliefs. And you get to share from a place of authenticity. And I've got goosebumps, so I know I'm on the right vein of thread here. Honestly, it's the best thing I ever did for myself, never mind my business. Because it is exhausting trying to fit into somebody else's mold, when ultimately that mold will never fit because it changes consistently. So just come from a place of, this is who I am, this is what I do, this is what my beliefs are, and that your right people will find you, I promise.
I love that. Thank you, Leona, so much.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Okay, ladies, I will drop her contact info below so you can go follow her. And thank you again.